Hey everyone, Adam Morgan of AdamCode716.com. I had been working on what I'm kind of treating as a golden ETL MLOps pipeline application. Yes, I know they're two different things, but there's a reason why I'm trying to do an all-in-one application. And you can see, I'll show you in a second how easy it will be to run one or the other or both, and how easy it is to kind of call the individual items one at a time. So I'm going to do a quick code walkthrough. I'm not going to get to anything terribly into any great detail. I'll just start at the top, just randomly. A little bit of a GitHub Actions working here for CI/CD. I haven't completed this yet. Everything you're going to see today is self-hosted, and that really gives you a lot of flexibility because it's a lot easier to be able to modify things to work in the cloud than it is to go from cloud to self-hosted. So I kind of went with that approach. It might be a good point to open up the environment file just kind of to prove that out. I'm using MinIO currently for artifact storage. Could easily switch that to AWS. Same thing with MongoDB. Did get it working in the cloud version, but I'm running locally right now. Name and Olama. Yes, Olama. I'll show you that in a second as to how that comes into play. Just decided to have a little bit of fun with this. So walking through the code. Artifacts, I'm storing really all the information about the run, data ingestion, transformation, validation. Just going to one of these just for a little bit of information. An artifact report, or drift report, I should say, sorry. That would have been a fun thing to push into Olama. I didn't even think about that until a second ago. Maybe I'll add that in. But yeah, you can see the different artifacts from every stage of the pipeline. Just going through these. So what it's doing under the covers, and we'll look at this more in a second, is it's comparing a bunch of different algorithms to find out which one is the most effective, and then it's creating the model file, the pickle file from that. Cool thing is we can come in here and I've logged everything locally. Obviously this could be converted to log somewhere else. The logging is completely centralized in the application. So it's just I'll look at what's logged, and you'll notice here this is actually where Olama came into play. So what I did is I took the logs from MLFlow, which we'll look at more in a second, and I just fed the information from those logs to Olama and said summarize this, and that's what it did. So here you can get a high-level view of everything that happened in the each run. And sample application is where the bulk of the code is. My goal in doing this was really twofold. One is to have everything in a nice, neat place, but really second, it was to make it configurable so that it could easily be modified for each use case. So I tried to make everything, parameterized, as I said a second ago. But I try not to go too far either, because I've seen people, just load up environment files with values and things like that. One example of an area where I kind of didn't do that, because it didn't seem to make a lot of sense, is so what will happen is the code will pick up any models you've listed here, and then it will, execute them as part during a run to see which one is the most efficient, and we'll look at that more in a second. So I really didn't abstract this out. Where I did more of that was probably here. So here's a collection of hard-coded constants, and then other places where it did make sense to pull information from environment files. More code in here, logging we looked at. So we'll skip to the next part now. There's a couple different ways to execute this. The first way is, and this also gives you a better idea as to how the application is laid out. I know I need a network diagram, haven't gotten around to it, because I know it's going to be ugly coming up with that flow. So what you can see here is kind of what you would see in a standard ETL/MLOps pipeline. Setting up the configuration, doing the data ingestion, validation, bad label there, who coded this, who quality checked this, and then so I could come in here if I wanted to execute the whole thing front to back. I could come in here and just execute this file, and then as you can see, everything's here nicely packaged up the way I like it. So let's take a look at what that looks like in practice. So to spare you from having to sit here and watch this run, anything with a print statement would have ended up here. So in this case, I had run main.py. Everything is, or lots of stuff is printed out here for your viewing pleasure. So where it gets interesting is I can come in here and I can come over to MLFlow, and I can come in here, and you're probably familiar with MLFlow, so if I'm not showing you anything you probably don't know. I can come in here, do this, take a look at the results of the runs, the scoring for each of the different algorithms. And again, this is where what was passed to Olama. And then, probably not a great example with this particular data set, but you get some different diagrams that would be outputted. We could also see those in the artifacts. And finally, one of the things I'd like to have, so obviously there's lots of different ways to initiate a pipeline. You can go and you can execute code, you can execute Python. But I think one of the cooler ways to do it is to essentially create an endpoint that can be used to call the individual pipeline. So, for example, one of the things I've done in previous projects, especially when using something like temporal, where you might not want to run everything at once, and you might want to have an orchestrator really handling all the different pieces of the pipeline. So what I did here is I essentially created an endpoint where I could call this, essentially do an API call to that endpoint. So if I come in here and I click on execute, and then I come back over here, and if I come to this one, and this is where the Unicorn web app was initiated from, you see that just the, I believe I clicked on the training part of the pipeline was executed. So again, those could be scheduled piecemeal. You could use something like, sorry, I lost my train of thought there. I'll have to edit that out. You could use something like Nodemation or any kind of scheduler to come in here and initiate the pipeline as needed. So with that is my brief overview of my pipeline.